In the dense forests of the Tambov region, on the outskirts of the small village of Vyazovka, lived a lonely brown bear named Boore. Once he was a mighty leader of his pack. But many years ago, after a hard fall from a steep slope, he received a deep wound and was forced to leave his relatives. Since then, Boore wandered alone, finding solace in the shade of old oaks and the noise of forest streams, avoiding noisy human settlements. His days passed in silence, among the smells of pine needles and the singing of birds. But one day, trouble overtook him again. Boore's left front paw began to swell. At first, the pain was light, like a thorn prick, but soon the paw became hot, red and heavy. Every step sent agonizing pain through his massive body. Boore tried to lick his paw, hoping to ease the pain, but the wound only got worse. The swelling had grown to the size of a large apple. Pus began to ooze from it, and a foul odor spread throughout his body. Weakened and exhausted, Boore could not get food or go far from his shelter under the old elm. Pain pierced him like hot needles, and fever made him stagger. He often fell on the soft grass, breathing heavily and realizing that without help, his days were numbered. In desperation, under the scorching sun of a July day, Boore decided to do something he had never done before. He left the forest and headed towards the village of Vyazovka, hoping that the people he always avoided could help him. That hot afternoon, the villagers heard a strange noise, the cracking of branches and heavy footsteps coming from the northern edge of the forest. A huge dark figure appeared from the undergrowth, raising clouds of dust. It was Boore, limping, with bloodshot eyes, covered in dirt and dried pus. His massive body was shaking with pain, and every step left bloody footprints on the dusty path. The residents of Vyazovka panicked when they saw the bear. Children screamed, women grabbed the little ones, and men ran out of their houses with pitchforks and sticks, deciding that the bear had gone mad and had come to destroy their homes. "He's dangerous," some shouted. "Drive him away," others echoed. The crowd began to roar, and stones were thrown at Boore. One hit him in the side, causing him to stagger. The bear froze, raising his head as if trying to say something, but this only increased the fear of the people. The loud roar of the crowd made him let out a weak growl, and without resisting, he slowly turned to leave. Blood and pus flowed down his paw, leaving dark stains on the road. Boore reached a small clearing at the edge of the village and collapsed in the tall grass. His heavy breathing echoed around him, and his paw occasionally rose, as if in a plea for help. A small boy named Dima, full of curiosity, ran closer, but his father Ivan quickly pulled him back, afraid that the bear would attack. Everyone in the village considered Boore a threat, and no one dared to approach. But one woman, an elderly herbalist named Marfa, remained standing aside, watching the bear. Marfa, who had lived her whole life near the forest and knew the habits of animals, noticed that Boore was not showing aggression. His eyes were full of pain and despair, not malice. She approached her neighbor, a young agronomist named Sergei Petrov, and said, "This bear hasn't come to scare us. It's dying and asking for help." Sergei, touched by her words, decided to act. He called the Tambov Forest Service, reporting a sick bear. An hour later, a truck with a team of rangers and veterinarians appeared on the dusty road. Residents gathered at a safe distance, watching with curiosity. The group was led by Chief Ranger Oleg Smirnov, a man with many years of experience in rescuing wild animals. With him was veterinarian Elena Kuznetsova, an expert on large mammals. Oleg slowly approached Boore, examining it carefully. The bear lay motionless, only its eyes following the man. "It has a severe abscess on its paw," Oleg said quietly. "He came here because he knew he wouldn't survive without us," Elena confirmed. "If we don't start treatment immediately, the infection will spread through the blood, and he will die in a few days." Hearing this, the crowd fell silent. Many felt ashamed for throwing stones and chasing the bear away. Sergei said loudly, "He didn't resist. Even when we chased him away, he just wanted us to help." These words made people think, and a feeling of guilt and compassion hung in the air. Oleg gave the order to clear the area around the bear. Inspired by the example of Marfa and Sergei, the residents began to help. Someone brought water. Someone removed dry grass to make it easier for the veterinarians to work. Elena wanted to use a tranquilizer to numb the bear and perform the surgery safely. But Oleg, watching Boore's behavior closely, said, "It seems he trusts us. Let's try without anesthesia." He walked up to the bear, gently touched its muzzle, and whispered something. Boore responded with a quiet purr, as if agreeing. The team got to work. Elena carefully cut the skin around the tumor, and pus and blood gushed out. The smell was unbearable, but no one backed down. Sergei put on gloves and helped clean the pus, and Marfa brought clean water to wash the wound. Elena used an antibacterial solution and cotton swabs to clean the affected tissue. Boore growled occasionally, but remained motionless, allowing the people to work. His eyes seemed to glow with gratitude as Oleg held his ear, not looking away. After careful cleaning, the wound was bandaged with wide bandages, carefully fastened around the massive paw. The residents watching the process quietly applauded when Boore relaxed for the first time that day. Lying on the grass, he looked calmer. A little girl named Katya brought a basket of apples, and an old man named Grigory placed a bucket of water next to him. The bear slowly extended his paw to the fruit, carefully took one apple and began to eat. The people around could not hold back their tears, seeing how the huge but weakened creature gained hope thanks to their efforts. At night, the residents organized a watch. They lit fires to scare away wild animals and monitored Boore's breathing. Elena checked his temperature and pulse regularly, and Oleg stayed close, quietly humming an old song that his grandfather, a former forester, had sung. Boore slept restlessly, occasionally sighing and touching the ground with his paw, as if checking to make sure he was still alive. At dawn, when the first rays of the sun broke through the fog, Sergei shouted, "He's getting up!" Boore, gathering all his strength, slowly rose up, leaning on 3 healthy paws. The bandages on the wound were damp, but held tight. He swayed, but stayed on his feet and turned to the crowd. The villagers burst into applause, many crying with joy. Boore raised his head, let out a low growl, as if saying goodbye, and slowly walked back into the forest. His gait was still limping, but there was a new strength in it. Every few steps he raised his head, as if sending people a final sign of gratitude. The villagers stood silently, watching him until his dark figure disappeared into the thicket. This story changed Vyazovka forever. From then on, the villagers began to leave water and berries at the edge of the forest for other animals in need. Children who used to be afraid of bears now drew them at school, calling Boore a friend of the forest. A photo taken by Sergei of Boore standing in a clearing was placed in a local chapel as a symbol of compassion and unity. Boore didn't just survive, he became a legend that was told to children and grandchildren. The bear from the Tambov forest became a symbol of hope for the village, and a reminder that even in the darkest moments, kindness and courage can save lives. People no longer saw bears as a threat, but considered them part of their world, part of a large family living in harmony with nature. Friends, thank you for taking the time to read this story. If it touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to support us. See you in the next stories about wildlife,